All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about a stock that's got everyone's attention today, BMNR. It's tied to the crypto world and, whoa, it just took a sudden 6% nosedive. So what on earth is going on here? We're going to break it all down. So that's really the big mystery, isn't it? Why did this happen? I mean, this wasn't just some tiny little dip in the market. A 6% drop is enough to make any investor sit up and pay attention. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. Figure out what was really behind this plunge. Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the drop itself. Then, we'll zoom out to the wider crypto scene, dive deep into BNNR's specific setup, check out the arguments for a comeback, and then finally put it all on the scale. Risk versus reward. Okay, first things first. Let's just set the scene and talk about the event that kicked this whole conversation off.
So yeah, there it is, almost 6% gone in just one day. Now look, in the stock market moves happened, but for a stock that's already riding the crypto roller coaster, a drop this big, it really makes you stop and think. You gotta ask, right, is this just a random bumpy day or is it a warning sign of something much bigger going on under the surface?
To really get what's going on with BMNR, you can't just look at BMNR. You have to zoom out. Because no company exists in a bubble, especially not in this space. This is all about the bigger picture, what you might call the crypto contagion. And this quote from Forbes just hits the nail on the head. When the crypto market as a whole starts to feel shaky, that feeling spreads like wildfire. Investors get nervous, they start heading for the exits, and companies like BMNR, whose whole game is being invested in crypto, they feel that pressure immediately. And this creates something the pros call a risk-off mood. It's a really simple but powerful idea. Basically, investors stop trying to hit home runs and start focusing on just not striking out. Their priority becomes protecting their money, not growing it. And what's the first thing to go when that happens? You guessed it, the risky stuff, like crypto stocks. It was like the perfect storm of bad news hitting all at once. First, you've got the whole crypto market feeling a bit weak, and that's especially true for ETH, which, as we'll see, is super important for BMNR. Then you throw in all this uncertainty about the economy and interest rates, well, people just lose their nerve. Confidence tanks, and that kicks off this big sell-off across the board. And BMNR, it was standing right in the path of the hurricane. But, blaming the weather is only half the story. To really understand why BMNR got hit so hard, you have to look inside the house. We need to talk about its own unique vulnerabilities. I love this description from AOL and Simply Wall Street. They called BMNR's model bold but brittle. And that's perfect. It's bold because they've gone all in on crypto. But that exact same decision is what makes them so fragile. So what does brittle actually mean here? Well, for starters, think about how BMNR gets its money. It's not from selling a product. It's by selling its own stock. And what do they do with that money? They buy a ton of ETH, which, can be incredibly volatile. So when the price of ETH goes down, suddenly the company is sitting on these massive paper losses. It's not real until they sell, but it's enough to make investors get really nervous and start questioning what the company is actually worth, its net asset value. And when they start questioning, they start selling. And this brittleness leads to a really interesting effect. BMNR tends to overreact. It's like when the crypto market gets a little cough, BMNR comes down with a flu. The stock doesn't just mirror the market, it often magnifies the moves. So a small dip for ETH can turn into a much, much bigger fall for BMNR. Okay, so that all sounds pretty scary, right? That's the risk side of the equation. But now we have to flip the coin. Let's look at the other side of the story, the actual case for a BMNR recovery. And honestly, BMNR has some major things going for it. We're talking about a company holding a massive treasury of ETH. Millions of them. And here's the really crucial part. They don't have a lot of debt. That is huge. It means when times get tough, they're not going to be forced to sell their crypto at rock bottom prices just to pay the bills. So if you're a believer that crypto is going to bounce back, well, BMNR is set up perfectly to get that updraft. And this all adds up to what investors call a high beta play. You can think of it like this. It's a bet on the crypto market, but with the volume turned up to 11. When the market is booming, BMNR is designed to boom even harder. You could see some incredible returns. But, and this is the big but we just witnessed, when the market goes down, BMNR is designed to fall even faster and further. It's a classic double-edged sword, for sure. Okay, that brings us to the final showdown. Let's put everything we've talked about together and really weigh the risk against that potential reward.
And here it is, laid out plain and simple. In one corner, you've got all the risks, the weak market, that brittle business model, the crazy volatility. But in the other corner, you have the rewards, that giant stack of ETH and very little debt. It's the ultimate tension between short-term fear and long-term faith.
So when you boil it all down, you get to this one crucial idea. The wild swings you see with BMNR, that's not a mistake. It's not a bug in the system. It is the system. That volatility is a core feature intentionally designed because of how deeply it's tied to the crypto market. Which really leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If you're looking at a stock like BMNR, a true high beta play, where these wild swings are just part of its DNA, how do you do it? How do you separate the day-to-day noise, all that gut-wrenching volatility, from the real signal, the actual long-term value of the company? And that right there is the puzzle every single person thinking about this stock has to try and solve.